Hi, welcome everybody. SUSE QE Tools Workshop. Today we will have a follow-up to a topic which we already discussed recently. What we had recently is how to report tickets, investigate, etc. Short recap. What we did there is we looked into the OpenQA ticket reporting feature, which allows to create, in our case, creates progress ticket for test issues and creates an issue on OpenSUSE.org for product issues. And for that, it's using a template. That template is automatically pre-filled by OpenQA. But of course, it's a template, so it can be adjusted by the person that needs to save the report ultimately. Also, we took a look at the original template where that came from, because that's also valid if you would report a bug manually, as well as various other guidelines, for example, for OpenSUSE. And then we discussed some experiences and some best practice with them. And we found that we can actually invest a bit more time to look into actual improvements for maybe both the automatic and manual bug reporting templates. So this is what we want to do. Find those improvements or collect some ideas, and then maybe some of you have a specific idea which we could implement. So ideas that we already mentioned is how to more clearly mark text that needs to be replaced so that it's clear what is template text, and how to encourage bug reporters to add mandatory information without annoying power users in their daily work. So what we should target here is people that do that multiple times a day, and then we don't necessarily want that you need to that it's a mandatory work to click certain checkboxes. We don't provide input. Anybody that would like to chime in at this point and bring forward some idea? Yeah, Roland.
Good morning.
Hi.
I have a general question. How much work do you need to do as a bug reporter before you actually write your report? Because you can see in OpenQA, there is an issue. Let me report it. Or do you need to investigate, and
Right.
perhaps even get close to a resolution before you report the bug report?
But that's a very good point. Yeah. So I can have an opinion on that, but first I would like to ask others. So guys, you as the power users among us, the same as the newcomers, how much time do you invest? How much effort do you invest before you say like, okay, now I can actually report a bug because I have all the necessary information? If I may put people on the spot, Dimster, may I ask you? I consider you as power user. I think in your daily. Can you say roughly per day how many bugs do you report?
Oof, that's a difficult question. It differs. There are days where there are luckily none,
Okay.
which happens and which is actually a good thing. There are other days where it's, yeah, let's say never more than 5. Otherwise, something went really wrong.
Right. And I guess if you have reached the 5th bug report, then maybe you don't have the energy anymore to put in that much time into investigation. But can you say how do you judge the effort or the time that you invest before you say like, okay, now I have all the information, I can report a bug, or I'm about to click the submit button and I have added enough information?
Right. So it always depends, of course, where I see it. First off, is it staging or is it product testing?
Mhm.
In staging, I try to observe if I see it in more than one staging, which usually leads at an OpenQA issue. If it's just in one staging, then it's almost always a product issue, which is the point after all of staging to find them. If it's in the product itself, so the full tumbleweed snapshot, it's a little bit trickier to distinguish between the two. So of course I'm using the investigate tab.
Right.
Um, Also just checking the needles, the logs which are there, just to get a feel, are we talking product or QA bug? So generally I do have to get to some information where I even want to file that. There are still errors, of course, in the end. At one point, it's just an assessment. Well, I think it could be there. Very often, there's, for example, a version upgrade of a package which changes some behavior. Um, then there's always a discussion. Is that new behavior now correct and intentional, or is it something the product would do wrong, or is it something the test needs adjustments? That's usually something which I find in progress for further discussion. And in
Okay.
other cases, I try to narrow it down as much as possible. But as you say, if there are five in a row, then the energy sort of diminishes for the last one.
Yeah. So you would say that it's better to report a not complete bug rather than not report any bug, because then also nothing's moving forward, right?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, of course, it's always good to have as much information as possible, but also very often, especially if I do it at night or on the phone, let's say, is just filing it and then adding more information the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't all have to be in the initial description of the bug. There can be more stuff coming later on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned the investigation tab. So that one here in this example, the first one I found an interesting example because that's a scenario which is already failing for 3 months, and clicking the investigation tab even shows that there's a lot of data to churn here, likely take a long time to finish. When I looked up the first failed job myself, and the investigation tab is actually showing only very little changes. And here we could see, like, okay, the only thing that changed in the tests is one file.
Yeah, this one is a bit special. It is a progress issue filed, even though it's actually a product change. So we changed from Wicked to Network Manager.
Right.
That was at that time, which the product is fine, but OpenQA doesn't expect it. There's a lot of stuff already being tested. I see the ticket is actually resolved, but not all the issues are fixed yet. So we'll have to rework that.
Yeah,
Probably
and
trying to find some better information because
right.
it is expected to be fixed, but not all issues are fixed yet. So there might be some product bugs lingering around,
Yeah,
or
but
the tests are just not completely rewritten yet.
yeah, right. So that, bugs in existing tests doesn't mean that somebody did anything wrong. It just means that the test doesn't do what the product expects, and it could very
Yep.
well be because the product changed. So what you mentioned in before, finding out what is expected product behavior is, I would say, for QA engineers often a bit more um, tricky to do, because when you write the test code yourself, then maybe you know from the test if, like, yeah, okay, I wrote that pull request myself, or maybe my colleague did, but what has changed in the product, what should be expected, that might be.
Yeah, that's always the big question if the product is behaving correctly or not. I mean, we often see the test doesn't do what it wants with the product, but really
Yeah.
deciding which side is at fault. I also often have to ping a maintainer to actually ask them directly. That's also something which I do on the product side
The maintainer of what?
of any package which I think might be involved at causing this failure now.
So maybe it would be firewall D here, right? But likely already better that, well, it's actually not firewall D, because more like Wicked that needs to bring something.
Yeah, this one here, this is most likely still OpenQA bug, because we reconfigured the network in a way that we can't add routes in the end,
Yeah.
which is something that happened after switching to Network Manager.
Right.
Network Manager itself supports it, so we know the product actually works in this area.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yep.
that's something for QA to rework in this specific case.
Likely, yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Other people that can bring forward their experience with that, so like how much time do you invest, how much effort do you invest before saying enough to report a bug now? Anyone that would like to share the experience?
I would say it highly depends on the bug. It's certain things are so clear that you can just hit the automated template.
Okay.
One will immediately understand what is going on there. And on the other hand, I'm debugging one bug since 3 days already to collect all the necessary information. And there are even some bugs that you can't report. Those are the most nasty ones. It's from all the sporadic issues where you don't have a clear reproducer and where you yourself have no idea if this is actually a bug or if this is just a configuration issue and it's not reproducible. Those are almost impossible to report. So that's actually another class that was not discussed here yet.
Yeah, right. Valid point. In the example of looking for 3 days into a bug, would you have reported a bug already and just adding results like one by one, adding comment after comment, or would you withhold reporting the actual bug until you have all that information ready, reviewed, put into a concise description, and only then report the individual bug?
Do you mean product bug or a test bug? But a test defect.
So to the two questions, first the honest one, I would say both are on the same level. Although with the test bugs, since we are mostly there, the developers and the reporters ourselves, there is sometimes not really the need to report them. But otherwise, I would say that the approach is the same. And to Ollie's question, I think that depends. At least what I ask myself there, is this a bug that has a huge impact on possible customers or the community? And if this is something that is potentially critical, but I do not have the necessary information, then I still report the bug.
Yeah.
Because this means that more people can look at it and it can also serve as a heads up. If this is some peripheral component that is likely to not affect anyone, then I would say I don't want to spam the people who are doing the triage and doing the development until I have all the necessary information.
Makes sense, right? So, yeah, thank you. Other experience that guys can share?
Just a small comment that I don't think there is a straight answer, and because for every team and it's different.
Sure. One one minor detail is that when one creates a bug in Bugzilla, then the original description cannot be changed. So if I would take a look here, I would say it makes sense that the original description is more or less complete. So personally, I would put in a little bit more effort in bugs in Bugzilla compared to progress tickets. Because here, I can quote the description, but I cannot change description. If on the other hand we are talking about progress tickets, then given the right permissions, you can edit. And I know that this is a bit sneaky. So this is one of the most common questions regarding the use of progress OpenSUSE.org or Redmine in general, is that after clicking edit, you can find another edit button here, and then you can actually edit the description. So even if, the original description wouldn't be complete for progress tickets, at least one can add it afterwards. Phoenix?
Just one short thing, because you are there. It's more a request for discussion here. But since Ollie said that the first statement can't be modified, when I'm writing bug reports, I'm always trying to do one thing. So if you are one person that reads the bug report, the first 2 or 3 sentences determine if you are interested in that bug or if you are being annoyed by that bug. So what I always try is to put in the first sentence as much sensible context-related information without going already into the details, so to interest the reader. For example, I don't know, we are seeing an issue in NPM 16 since update 101 because of XYZ. And then I put this sentence there, and then I go on with the template. Because me as a reader, if I first have to read through 1 or 2 paragraphs in order to get the scope of the error, then I'm already very much annoyed and unlikely to go into that much of mental effort to read it than not. And I was wondering if especially the people who read the bug reports find this a useful approach, or if there is even something that we as the reporter can do better there.
Yep, good point. Oh, so anyone that can like either add to that or answer from the other side, the reader?
So if I get the question, I suppose it's about the way the template or the default structure is written, right? And there can be a lot of visual overhead, if that's the way to put it, which I sometimes find as well. It depends a bit on the specific case or what kind of detail is needed.
Maybe I was scrolling away. It's my statement was mostly that I always try to put a lot of effort in the first 2 sentences and make even a general, you could call it an abstract of the whole bug report first before going into the bug report itself. So instead of just blindly using the template, in here, for example, create a first paragraph here that summarizes everything that comes later on in order to give the reader a general overview about the most important stuff first, before starting with OpenQA testing scenario, blah, 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 phase, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. So, okay, to apply that practice here, maybe you could just turn that around and say, that's the specific different thing here, and afterwards follows kind of a template text, which I can understand if some people, they're like, yeah, it's helpful information, someone need to put that here, but it can be tiring to someone that is reading a lot of bugs which follow more or less the same format, because you need to understand, like, where is it just boilerplate and where is it just the actual different information.
Exactly, because after the first sentence, I as a reader, I have already a rough scope what's going on there, and then comes the boilerplate. So this means that I can, after the first sentence, already decide, is this something interesting for me, or is this something where I just hover over? And I don't need to hover over 2 or 3 paragraphs in order to determine the actual important stuff, which is this relevant for me or not?
Okay. So anyone that would like to ask for that or add to that?
Yeah, I think this is a personal preference how you're gonna write it. But the only thing that matters, I think, is the wrong question. The right question is like when you go back to the ticket after 2 months or a year, if you can grab the information that you need.
Yeah.
This is a question that you should, when I go or someone else go to read this in 6 months, what gonna get from me?
Exactly. So as a reminder, because we already discussed it last time, so this is how I just clicked on this bug reporting icon, and this is having all the pre-filled information. It shows, for example, there's a section about test suite description. The test suite description, unfortunately, is empty. It would be nice if the test suite owner actually fills a useful test suite description for that test suite. But if I, as bug reporter, now see that, then either I put a description there, or at the very least, what I should do is delete this. So that's better now, but even then
Or
I should.
maybe, how about in that situation, file a ticket about getting the description filled in, because it's a good opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Especially if you're investigating a particular issue, it might be the chance that you're evaluating anyway what it's about.
That's a very good idea. So when I create a progress ticket and I found that something could be done better in the test suite itself, then besides the original issue, the actual problem to be fixed, I'm also stating, like, it would be nice if you can put a sensible test suite description there and such things.
And I want to interrupt again. Like this exact what we see now, it's not good again because the links don't help in a way that the links might be invalid in 6 months or anything, or deleted.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why here should be, what is special about this bug? Yeah. So what fails exactly? What symptoms show? That should come here. Right? So that's the observation. And the section here, expected results as last good, which is a nice thing if we can actually see, like, this is how it looks now, this is how it should look. But maybe it doesn't, this isn't a good reference. Maybe it doesn't even apply here. So maybe we should delete that text and say what we actually expect, or what should be there instead. So, like, I'm inventing something here. After upgrade of the iBus package, the new control API needs to be used. So likely the user interface needs to adapt for that, right? Okay. Now, talking about what can we improve also about the template. So I would like to show you in the OpenQA repository. I'm going to click through the paths so that you can actually follow and find that the logic that controls the reporting. There's a folder called Templates Web API, and in there we have branding. Why branding? Because, well, OpenQA can be branded towards different vendors, so to say. We have Plain, which doesn't have that reporting template, and we have OpenQA SUSE QE, which also points to OpenSUSE. Now let's go into OpenSUSE, and yeah, that's Dogbox and SponsorBox, but the external reporting is what we are talking about here. Because this one here, what it is, it's a template file, so the syntax might look a bit unusual, but basically, read it as Perl code where every line is prefixed with a percentage, more or less. Okay. And the good thing is that we can get some data, because when an actual HTML file is called from that, meaning that from the job, like from here, we have data that is forwarded into the functionality of these bug reporting icons. This is why these links that are created by clicking here already have a lot of information. For example, they know the test from which you report a bug. They know the build, they know the module ID, they know the actual step. And we also know something about the test distribution, the flavor, the version, and all these things. So for example, you could see like, okay, based on what the flavor says, if it's desktop updates and the version is 12 SP1, then actually we need to put in a version like this to resolve the right product in Bugzilla, and other examples. And then here, for example, the first known bad, that one is also resolved automatically. Okay, so we can find from here another drop URL. We can even walk through the test results to find an older one in the history. And here, this is where the complete description is defined. It goes from here to here. And in this block, there we just put in text as well as we fill in variables. For example, test suit description, we put that in as verbatim text. And then for scenario description, we just put in the content of the variable, if the variable actually has any content. So if you have ideas how to extend that, change that, or adapt that, you can create a pull request to change that. So let's discuss one idea. So Phoenix, you mentioned that it's really important to have this motivating teaser text. So how about we put in an extra line after here and saying specifically actually I could try out GitHub discussions.
You probably mean something like an encouraging sentence of write a summary that includes, I don't know, A, scope, B, impact, C, I don't know, reproducibility.
So yeah, so something like put information here.
How about just try to summarize the whole bug report in 2 sentences?
That's a good idea. Now, if I put that in uppercase, then that would be text that a bug, an issue reporter should replace or remove, okay? But of course, we cannot easily automate that. We cannot tell Bugzilla to say, disable the submit bug until this template text was replaced. At least I'm not aware of that. What I would like to prevent is that we have now 1,000 bugs which have this verbatim text, summarize the bug report here in 2 seconds. But that would help. Do we need to write it in capital case, or do we need to use something like this? Or who has an idea? First, Janis, you wanted to say.
First of all, why not to put the things that you wrote before, like what is important, like what changed, what do you observe? Questions like this. So
yeah. Would it work like this? Should we try?
no.
You think
from
it
my
wouldn't
point of
work?
view.
Yeah, maybe.
Would that be annoying for some because you need to always delete that and replace it? Or would it be okay because it would be like
I
selected
don't think
and
it matters because it's just a template.
yeah.
In this point, you're still missing some information that basically you can get from investigation or from the log files. And now I remember a guy who told me that in L3 they had a script to get information about what's have changed or what's different from working one. Uh, this kind of informational tools will, I think, it will be helpful.
Yeah.
So you know what to put there.
Right. I mean, we have this investigation info here, and we could, I guess, also this investigation would load for quite long. Let's try another example. So here, this is what changed to the last good. But if I include the complete page into the bug report, that would be quite long.
No, I didn't mean this. I mean that you can get some insights from this. What changed? For example, you can see that some variable can change and you can report it. I'm not saying to automate this.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes sense to automate the template in general.
What we could do, because we don't point to the investigation jobs nor the OpenQA investigate jobs in the bug reporting template. So I'm thinking that would be like idea number 1, and idea number 2 could be include links to the investigation tab as well as the investigate job results. I guess Tumbleweed is so well reviewed that we don't find examples there. Let's try.
Sorry, I'll try to make it better for next
Yeah,
time.
I'm looking for a worse example. Maybe we can find someone that is not working that diligently. No, I'm joking. I mean, could just happen that something recently came up. Okay, so that's an interesting example because all the investigation jobs incompleted. Nice. Yeah, all are gone.
So I just wrote in the chat a link to the template text that Debian, for example, uses for reporting bugs. It is a really short boilerplate thing. It also instructs you to remove the boilerplate.
Nice.
Yeah, that one.
Remove this template line. Would that work?
Yeah, this is what I meant to have some questions like this.
Yeah, it works really well. Of course, there are a lot of bugs reported still with this boilerplate in there, but
Okay.
it helps you to focus. And some people just leave the boilerplate in and answer the questions below every question.
I see.
And some people just remove the boilerplate and answer the questions there. But it could help because it's a guide and it's only a short boilerplate where you are instructed to at least answer the following questions, and then it's up to the scenario where it will be useful.
Yeah, I think I like that because it says remove these template lines. I mean, that's explicit. Yeah, nice idea. I will include that in this here. Text ends with this, of course, does not prevent that people still leave it in, but it could help.
If I may suggest, you want to say it does not prevent people from leaving it in, so the grammar works.
Does not prevent that people from people.
It does not prevent people from leaving it.
Yeah. Do you think? Yeah, so that's a good idea. Number 2, do you think it's a good idea if we can include links to the investigation tab as well as the OpenQA investigate job results automatically in the template? You know, like in the further details section.
When you say automatically, where do we get the links from?
Well, that's easy. We are just pointing to the same test URL, but with the hash investigation. So here we point to always latest result in this scenario, and here we point to the step URL. And what we could include is just include the job itself with, you know, this hash investigation added, or hash comments, which would be more helpful in examples like this. So here we have automatic investigation jobs included, and then it's helpful to, of course, it's better if the bug reporter can already summarize that information, like we know from automatic investigation jobs that this issue is reproducible, right? I mean, that's what the message says here. Failed, likely not a sporadic test. So, you know, it's reproducible. That's answering one of these common questions.
I feel like intuitively I would rather see the result of it as part of the ticket, because otherwise I could just go through the tabs as well.
Yes, but often I encounter that people, you know, are breaking their head about, is that reproducible? What could be the change? And they are not aware of the investigation, or they forgot to click there, or I don't know what the reason is. Maybe we need to rethink the structure on the UI, which is also fine. Somebody has an idea what we should do? Should we mark it in flashing red, in bold?
Maybe we should put more stuff on the investigation tab. Like it has already a couple of things that it points out as info messages, right?
Okay, what else would you like to put there? Or would you turn it around and say, when a job fails, you're actually starting with the investigation tab?
Well, what you were kind of showing was, you know, maybe you start with investigation tab, but there's something in the comments that you are probably interested in.
Yeah.
But my thought is, you know, if we just have links to several tabs, it's not going to help, right? You'll still have to look at everything. But then I'd
Yes.
rather wonder if the investigation tab can show you more relevant bits or highlight what you likely want.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a different approach, because, you know, here that was like what original OpenQA was providing. It's like, okay, so you see a screenshot, you know what it should show, oh, okay, so it should show a password prompt, and then you can see like clearly it doesn't show a password prompt. So
I could also argue here, why doesn't this screen actually let me know there's already a ticket about it?
okay, right.
Because otherwise I'm kind of cognitively losing the context if I'm trying to find out more information about it, right? Like I can't stay in this context without keeping all the details in my mind.
Yeah, you would have to keep in your mind like, okay, so the test fails about password prompt. I need to remember that. And now I go to here and I have investigation info. That's already helpful. Where was the test failing? Oh yeah, the password prompt failing. So yeah, that's correct. Anybody has a good idea of how we could keep that mental bridge?
I would say it's difficult. There is no good bug report below at least 6 open tabs at the same time.
Okay, so that's a good best practice. Should I include that as a hint to the bug reporter? You need to have at least 5 other tabs open, otherwise you're likely missing details.
Yeah.
What's that thing? Can I click it? Oh, okay, so I never used this GitHub discussion. It's fun. I guess I upvoted that somewhat by creating it myself. Maybe. Yeah, you're welcome to, join the discussion here, but we still have room. Say, what else could we do about the bug reporting template? Like change it, add text, remove text, something different. If there are no further ideas, then we can keep that an asynchronous discussion and see if someone would like to implement that. Putting text here in a pull request should be trivial, so that would be a really nice newcomer task. If anyone is looking into contributing. And other than that, we can also conclude then. Are there more to this topic in general about bug reporting which you would like to add or ask?
Will it make sense to every team squad have its own template?
That would be possible. There is a little bit of distinction already here. So where we could say like, okay, if here for CASP certain version microOS, and then depending on the specific products that, for example, you have this public prefix. Meaning we can also include here something like if some value includes a certain string, then you can add more in that text, or you can leave out some text, change the text. Or maybe what you're thinking of is to say like, yeah, sure, you are, let's say when you're in the kernel team, then you have your own wiki page, which says whenever we do bug report.
You know what I'm thinking? Like, you try to make one thing out of so many approaches, and there are some tests that do not run. They use the OpenQA to run external tests.
Yes.
For example, and you don't need the OpenQA actually they usually fail on the
Yeah, like the one single
external
generic
test.
step which says
Yes.
run external tests. Sure. So yes, at this point I can just
Or
say yes. That's
and
a good idea.
another point will be how you can improve it in cases of multi-jobs, because usually it doesn't make sense if you have one, it fails in one, but you report one job, but the problem can be some in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, true. Like you have
To,
a
yeah, to
scenario
aggregate the
with two
information.
nodes,
Yeah.
and what you need is basically information from both nodes, and you need to somehow combine that in a linear text. Yeah. Also correct. Honestly, I don't have really specific ideas of how one could implement that, but I can just agree with you that this would help. Okay. Right. So if you have ideas, then yeah, Roland.
So yet another boilerplate in the chat. So this is one that is used by the reproducible builds team.
Right.
And this is then the Debian text, but it has also a boilerplate text slightly more below that that says example email to submit a pitch. Hello, we're working on this task. I have noticed the following, etc., etc., which is also addressing the getting the interest of
Nice.
the book reader.
Yep. I like that as well. So let's see. I can include that here.
Well, as somebody that actually reads a lot of bugs, I actually skip over those introductions all the time anyway, because you have read them 100 times, you don't care for them anymore.
Yeah, so maybe every third month we need to change that. But
yeah, exactly, because you start ignoring them anyway.
right, so that's why I think ultimately it needs to be the bug reporter that needs to write their own text as a human. We cannot solve that. So now maybe you're strong.
Dimstar, what are the first two things that you look into a bug report then?
Well, I want to get as quickly as possible to actually to the nitty gritty. All the introduction, like "Hello, I am" and blah blah. I have seen this problem. It's all nice and good, but it takes away my time, and I want to see what's actually wrong. So don't make a big introduction, but tell me what's wrong with your thing without just skipping all the stuff which might be important.
Yeah, so maybe not just the OpenGA test URL, but saying like, why do you give me that URL? What should I see there?
Exactly. So yeah, here we could say basically issue was was seen at blah blah.
Yep.
Things like that. Basically, the structure is not that bad because it says, well, I see an issue at this link.
Yeah.
I have identified it to be tell that stuff which the reporter then writes below. That's also as a reporter will go, okay, I'll click on that link. I actually observe it myself anyway first.
Yeah.
Because you don't trust whatever the people write.
Yeah.
But sorry, Janis, to take the word here, but Dimstar as a general rule of thought, introduction of two sentences on the level of, I don't know, GNOME login fails with error message bash cannot determine the correct path of XYZ, since snapshot XYZ is something that you would consider useful.
Yes.
Okay.
Janis?
Thanks.
I said that I'm against of the links that we put on the tablet, but there is one link that maybe it's useful. Is uh, the Git reference to the test that runs on this test.
Yes. Right. That's a good point. I can include that. We have that planned. The challenge right now is that the main tests for OpenSUSE are running from something where OpenQA doesn't even know that it's in Git. You know, we have this feature in OpenQA that it can clone any custom Git repo, and it works very nicely. But the main repository, it is from Git, but you know, this is externally controlled. We have a Saga to do that. We needed to focus on more stuff, especially for SUSE maintenance in the past. And that's why we didn't follow up with that story. I hope that we can come back to this version control Saga soon, and then that would be one nice idea to include.
This ticket, by the way, is open for a long time, this Saga.
That's correct. As I said,
Yeah.
you know, this is like the SUSE QE department merge, which made us change our course a bit. And it's actually a really big challenge, which we just discussed yesterday with the team. Because for SUSE QA maintenance workflows, maybe some of you or maybe colleagues which aren't here are also, you know, you're always expecting more of, would be nice if you could work on this or that feature or bug in the tooling. And people expect a lot regarding maintenance. And we focused most of our effort in that area, but still people aren't happy about the progress. So yeah, that's a challenge that I need to address. Just saying, but still including that idea because I think it's good. Okay, cool. Right. So let's conclude that topic. Thank you a lot. I think we have found again quite good and tangible ideas, and also have discussed some best practices which work. Most of the stuff which we discussed today, I feel like that works without anyone needing to change code. Okay, so it's change in process. Maybe for some of you it's not change, but for some of you it's good ideas which you can say like, yeah, okay, you can follow that whenever you are reporting bugs. The next workshop sessions will be, the next one will be skipped due to a holiday. The one after that, meaning in 2 months from now, 2 weeks from now, will be about QAM bot and QAM dashboard GitLab CI workflow. So in GitLab CI, where we model the workflows which involve these two central tools, QAM bot and QAM dashboard, as part of the SUSE SLE maintenance testing. That one will be presented by Jan Weyer, and then we can discuss that. Okay, so with that, thank you all for your attendance, and see you again next time. Goodbye.